And joining us now is former Republican Congressman, former member of the January 6th committee, Adam Kinzinger. Adam, always great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, good to be with you. And I apologize to everybody for my voice, so don't get too annoyed by it. But I'm
No,
all right. I'm surviving.
you're sounding good. Maybe some turkey will help, a little
Yeah,
gravy, some
that's right.
stuffing. You know, it always helps me when mom's turkey hits the table.
That's perfect.
Well, let's talk about a different turkey, if you don't mind. We'll talk turkey about Ukraine and Russia and this. I don't know if you can call it a turkey or what happened over the weekend. Something foul, I guess, if I can continue with the dad puns. But there was, they've been having these talks to try to come up with some sort of peace agreement, which I'm just suspicious of from the get-go. If the Trump administration is involved, I'll just be truth in advertising about this. But there were these weird tweets, and I'm sure you saw this over the weekend, Adam, where Nick Schifrin, really good reporter over at PBS, was saying that Senator Angus King of Maine, Senator Mike Rounds, a Republican, they were saying that they're looking at this peace plan, and they were briefed by Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, about it. And this is what Nick Schifrin reported: the leaked 28-point plan, which, according to Secretary Rubio, is not of the administration's position. It is essentially the wish list, I should say, of the Russians. Adam, what did you make of all this news when it was coming out over the weekend? And it just seemed as though it sounded like Marco Rubio was just pushing what the Russians want to see happen in Ukraine, which to me is nuts. But
yeah, well, the whole thing is bizarre. And first off, there's this weird thing which you see on the domestic side, but it's happening now on the international side in terms of domestic actors, where they want to blame everybody except Donald Trump. So they can blame Steve Witkoff, or they can blame this person or that person, but it's never Donald Trump's fault, right? Because for whatever reason, I think what you're seeing is the manifestation of a real competition, almost a civil war between the J.D. Vance faction of the administration and the Marco Rubio faction. Undoubtedly, Marco Rubio is a little more naturally hawkish on Russia. J.D. Vance is a little more sycophantic to Russia. And so there was this confusion that, is this really the plan? Is this not the U.S.'s plan? And for a day, nobody was sure. And that's where Marco Rubio was like, no, this is just the Russian wish list. We're going to go into this and negotiate. Other side was saying, yeah, this is our plan. And it didn't take long to clean up to where Marco Rubio was tweeting basically, this is our plan. This is our starting point, but this is our plan. So what clearly happened is Steve Witkoff talked with Vladimir Putin to negotiate something. Basically, Vladimir Putin rolled him intentionally or unintentionally for Steve Witkoff. And now they're trying to jam this down Ukraine's throat. That's exactly what's that. They're trying to say, take it or leave it. And, and it's putting Ukraine in a pretty bad position.
And they've done this a few times, and Donald Trump has been involved in this. And just recently, Trump was basically saying, well, they can just keep fighting their hearts out in Ukraine if they don't want to take this. And we should note, I guess, the talks that are happening, that are ongoing, there are some rumblings that maybe some positive developments might come of this. But again, I'm a skeptic. I just, I'll believe it when I see it. But I just wonder if there's something baked in here that is just not going to work out well for the Ukrainians in the long run, Adam, and that it sounds as though the Russians are saying, listen, the only way this is going to work is if you give up some of your territory, and we're going to give you sort of a half-baked security agreement, a promise that we won't invade you again, which, I mean, that and 50 cents won't get you a cup of coffee. And Donald Trump is just naturally inclined to take that view. And it just keeps happening, cycling over and over again. Every few months, it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, I call it's snatching, defeat from the jaws of victory, because Ukraine is really, look, the estimates are, at the current rate Russia is advancing, it would take them 4 additional years, which would mean at the same rate it's been, another 1 million Russian lives, which I would argue the Russians would not be able to handle that, to take the rest of Donbass, which they're talking about, or Donetsk, which they're talking about, releasing as part of this peace agreement. And also, by the way, that area that they're fighting over right now is a natural defensive belt for Ukraine. So if Ukraine gives that up, it's almost like us giving up, in theory, like a mountain range, right? That could be a natural barrier to an invasion. And so that's a problem. The other problem is limiting Ukraine's armed forces to 600,000.
I saw that.
Which is insane. I mean, that's insane. Like, World War I Germany stuff. Secondly, part of this is all of the Western fighter jets that Ukraine now owns would have to be parked in Poland, not in Ukraine, which is nuts. And then on top of that, there's all these different provisions that the U.S. benefits from. We now are going to enter, well, we don't benefit from them, but, Russia does, inevitably us, in theory. We're going to enter minerals agreements with Russia. We're going to enter Arctic exploration together. We're going to let them into the G8. We're going to restore, economic relations with them. It appears to be as much of a, an agreement between the United States and Russia for just prosperity in the future as it is even with Ukraine. And Ukraine's going like, what are we, mincemeat? Like, can't we have a say in this? It is the worst thing. I mean, this is basically what Russia was demanding of Ukraine before the war even started.
Yeah, and you mentioned Steve Witkoff earlier, the U.S. Special Envoy who's involved in these talks, and I guess he recently did an interview with Tucker Carlson. I just want to play a little mini clip of that, but I mean, this is nuts what he said, if we can play that.
What do you think of him? I liked him. Yep. I thought he was straight up with me. Of course, by the way, I've said that. And you can imagine, by the way, I say that, I get pilloried.
I like him. He's not a bad guy. I mean, what's going on there? It's strange.
So Dim Philby, aka Steve Witkoff, is either all in on Vladimir Putin, because these guys, these rich guys, right? All they think about is money. All they love is they love powerful people. It impresses them. Or he's getting completely rolled. It's one of the two. I mean, look, yes, when you meet with Vladimir Putin, you're going to walk away thinking he's a nice guy. He's good at his job. Right. Yes. There's a reason. Honest to God, if you met with Adolf Hitler back in 1941, you would have walked away being like, actually, he's pretty nice in person. Well, because that's what they
say
do.
Trump is charming, but anyway.
Yes, that's what they do to gain power. I mean, and so to sit here and say, oh, he's nice, while at the same time, probably while Dim Philby was there talking to him, there's missiles being launched from Russia indiscriminately into Ukraine. The Russian soldiers are indiscriminately killing Ukrainian POWs. They're kidnapping children. I mean, everybody watching knows this, but this guy goes and just gets, tied up by him. I mean, it's unbelievable how ill-prepared he is.
Yeah, and I want to move on to something else, but the other thing that is in the back of my mind, I don't want to sound like a nutty conspiracy theorist like Glenn Beck or something like that, but when the Epstein emails come out and there's an Epstein email that says, talk to the Russians. Epstein is saying, like, I want to talk to the Russians because if you want to understand Donald Trump, talk to me. It's just, it's a little metric. It's something weird. What I mean?
Totally.
There's something weird going on.
Well, and let's look at how clearly, and I'm not saying anything that's even controversial, how clearly Donald Trump is driven by economic deals and money, right?
Yeah.
The Qatar jet, the Trump hotels that are built everywhere he goes. There is no doubt that money can speak with Donald Trump. And we know the Russians are very good at using money to win people over. So we're not making an accusation, but sometimes you see a duck walking and it may take a few steps to figure out it's a duck, but it starts to look like one.
It's walking like a duck. It's something's going on there. The other thing I want to ask you about, Adam, is I saw some of your comments about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I know from your days on the January 6th committee, you're a little suspicious of this deathbed conversion for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Your thoughts on this? I do have to say, the way she stood there with the Epstein survivors and victims and so on, I thought that was something. I don't know what to make of it. Is she purely just a political person who just did that for political reasons? I don't know. I can't get in her head. But you were saying recently that she's got a whole lot of other stuff to walk back before she gets welcomed into altogether play company at all times.
That's right. Yeah. Let's keep in mind, she harassed survivors of school shootings, right? Yeah. She claims January 6th was a government conspiracy. 9/11 was a government conspiracy. We know the whole Jewish space lasers thing, sitting on the floor, screaming and yelling at Joe Biden when he was talking,
right?
Harassing a fellow congresswoman who has a trans daughter. You take that stuff into account and it's like, look, I hope she found what I call politics Jesus. It would be great, right?
Yeah.
But
maybe she got a taste of her own medicine.
And she's got a lot of walking back to do. The truth is, I think and I love watching the Civil War, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I think what's really going on is she sees that she either wants to run for president or do whatever she wants to do. And in that process, she's kind of trying to find a lane. And that lane, because if you listen to her resignation video, it wasn't, I've done bad things, I was wrong. It was, Donald Trump is not MAGA enough.
Yeah.
And so she is going to spend the next couple of years, I think, trying to claim she's the real MAGA so that when Donald Trump doesn't run again, which he won't, she can try to come in and swoop that up. That's my theory.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, she was complaining that she was getting death threats, and I wanted to, I was waiting for somebody to tweet out the meme of Bruce Willis and Die Hard, "Welcome to the party, pal," because I mean, look what happened just the other day with this group of Democratic lawmakers who were saying don't follow orders, unlawful orders. I wanted to get your take on that because they're already saying they're getting death threats. Which is, I mean, this is what happens. You go up against Trump. I'm sure, Adam, you've gotten them. I've gotten them. This is what happens. You go up against him. They're going to unleash the hounds on you. But what did you think about that whole thing where, they said don't follow unlawful orders? I mean, to me,
it's right.
Yeah,
it's absolutely right. I mean, look, that's not even a controversial thing to say. We learn this at the very beginning of when we're in officer training, right? It's part of our ethics training. I'm sitting there and they said, literally the very first day of officer training, they're like, hey, just so you know, your job is to kill people and break stuff. If you have a moral problem with that, walk away now. Now, the second thing is you have to refuse unlawful, immoral orders. If you have a problem with that, walk away now. That's not controversial. And these people aren't saying, hey, on the drug boat situation, don't do it. Or on deploying to American cities, don't do it. They're simply saying, do not follow unconstitutional orders. Because let's be honest, there is a concern that an unconstitutional order is going to come down. Nothing wrong with what they said.
Yeah. And also, didn't Trump pardon people who were convicted of seditious conspiracy? I mean,
1,500 of them. He has this thing like sedition worthy of death, and he pardons them. I mean, it's unbelievable. Everybody knows this. And the problem is the MAGAs are so in their little tribe, they have to defend their tribe at all costs. But I really believe in 10 years, Jim, there's not going to be a single person that ever in polite company admits that they supported this guy.
Interesting. You think, because you see this sort of unravel. I mean, I see it unraveling too. It's It's unraveling right now.
It is. I don't know if it's going to, unravel totally in the next year. Maybe it's 3 years. Maybe it's even the hindsight of history in 5 years, but it will unravel.
Yeah. And you've got this, just quickly before we go, you got this documentary that came out, The Last Republican. Is that right?
Listen,
very cool.
Everybody go watch it. You can get it on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Google. It's only an hour and a half. It's funny, it's entertaining, and it's really good. The Last Republican covers the January 6th stuff, but there's so many layers, including, the effect on my family and I having a kid during this and everything else. So go watch The Last Republican.
We will definitely check it out. And there are videos of you telling people how to get jacked. I gave you shit the last time for this. Like, all right, Adam.
It's a great thing about having time now.
I know it's true. But I haven't gotten there yet, so I might need some tips or something. But we'll do that offline. I won't make you do that here. But I'll let you enjoy some turkey too. Adam, great to see you as always. Thank you, man.
Take care.
Good to see you. Appreciate it.